Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to the Endless Runner tutorial. So in this episode, we actually start displaying a score, and we also set a some kind of difficulty. So we get a speed up every 10, and then after 20 score we get another speed up, and then after 40, 80, 160, and then so on. So guys, without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so we've got our scene over here. It's pretty simple, right? It only consists of a player and a tile manager. What we're going to do now is we're going to right click right here, right inside the hierarchy, and then create a new UI. And for our score, we are going to be using a simple, let's go with a image right now. And then we'll add a text inside of that image. So right here, what you see over here is an actual, let me just turn off that skybox real quick. So let's go in window, lighting, and put that on default. So I went under skybox and I put it on default. Right now we have the Unity no skybox, which has a dark blue color. Okay, so you see how we have this rectangle, this white rectangle here. It actually scales with your screen size. This is literally your screen size. So say if you're playing on 16 by 9, this is always going to be the same exact aspect ratio, and that is something you need to consider in the end. And you see the UI is not being rescaled right now. So what we're going to do is actually make sure all of those problems are not a issue to us. So let's go ahead in canvas. This is our new UI. This is a new, well, actually canvas, you could say that canvas is the white rectangle. So in our canvas we have an image, this image right here, and its position right now is a little bit odd. I mean, it's not set. But what we can do now is actually click on this icon while having the image selected, then set a anchor point. Now for the score, I'll just be putting it in the center over here in the middle. So I'll be clicking here. As you can see, the anchor point moved from here to there. But there is also the pivot point of your image that you want to set as well. So by holding shift on the keyboard, I can then click on this image again, on this icon again, and then the pivot point is now moved as well. Now our image is still here, but our anchor and pivot point are over there. So if we set all our values to 0, we should actually get this. And that is exactly what we want. So right now what I'm going to do is actually add a image to this, an actual image. This is simply a white square, but I do have some UI image, I believe. Yep, these image. Now of course if you don't have any, you can just keep the white background, or use a default panel, I think. Yeah, this one. This comes with Unity, so you can simply use that. But I have my own button, so I'll be using this, and then of course rescale it as I wish. So maybe 200 by 30. That's too small. Let's do 50. Is that too small? Maybe. Okay, let me try with 75 then. And 225 in width. Okay, so I get something of the sort. Now our problem is still the same. If I rescale my canvas, this is what we get. The image is taking the whole screen. So this is where we actually set some values inside of the canvas. So on the root element of your UI, the canvas element, you can see we have a canvas scaler over here, and this one is on constant pixel size. Let's change that for scale with screen size. Now this way, it is always going to be scale according to the size of your canvas. And then we can remodify it if it's not big enough. So if I'm looking here, I think that's fine for the score. I don't want this to be blocking my vision either, so right here is just about perfect. Okay. So we've just created a simple button here. Well, not a button, sorry, an image. We've just added that right there. But I'd like to add some text on top of that image. I'd like to add some text that contain my score. So let me just clean this up. This image is going to be the score container. And I will right click on this object, then add a new UI text, like so. And it's really subtle right now, you can't see it that well. So what we're going to do is change the font color to a nice white, increase the font size, and then move it in the center like so. What I like to do with text is I actually click on this icon and then I stretch on both axes. This means you're going to stretch it on both axes so it assumes the same exact size as the parent. In this case, the parent of my text object is the score container, is the image, this button image. So if I click on this and I remove all the values up here, so 0, 0, 0, and 0, then my text is exactly the same exact size as the button, and now I can play with the font size as much as I want. Now be careful when you play with the font size. If the font size is bigger than the actual box, like this, then the actual defined zone of the rect transform, then you're not going to see your text. So in case you don't see your text, make sure you scale it down a little bit and hopefully you can then see it. Okay, so my score is going to be something like, say, 51-24, why not? And is that good enough? Maybe I want to scale it down a little bit, like so. I'm also going to change the font. Now again, I have my own custom font. If you want to use yours, you have to import it inside of Unity. And there we go. Okay, so that's basically going to be the place where I store my score. Now, you can be putting your text value on pretty much anything because it doesn't really matter. It's going to be reset pretty much every frame. So what we're going to do is name this score. There we go. So right now we have a canvas, which is this whole thing. This is the whole screen. On top of the whole screen, we have this UI, and this UI object contains a score. Now score then has a text component, and that's what we need to modify. We need to get the text component of that score and then modify the text inside of it. So say when we hit 5 in points, that we can type in 5 in this box, but we have to do it via code. Now the way we're going to do this is we're actually going to create a new script on top of the player. Usually I always put it inside another script because the score is going to be something fairly small, but for this example we are going to create a whole new script for it. So having my player selected, I will hit add component and let's just type in score. Then make sure you create a new C# script and we're going to move it inside of the folder. So right now your player should have this new component, this new score component. I am going to double click on it to open it inside of MonoDevelop. Okay, so we got a brand new page right here we can write on. Let's start by declaring a private float that we'll call score, and that is going to hold our score, of course. Now, once we have our score, we'd like to be able to write it on our UI object, and in order to do that, we needed to have a reference to that text component. Now we're going to do something a little bit different than we usually do to get a reference. We are going to add on top of our script using that system, using Unity Engine.UI. This way we can now have access to the text component type, and we're going to make it public. So public text score text, like this. Now what this gives us is, if we go back on our player, we should now have a public field called score text. And since this is of text type, we can grab the score right here from our canvas and drag it right inside of here. This way, we know that score text is equal to this. And we can then simply call, just for an example, we can say score text.text is equal hello. We did that in the start, so if we press start, it should say hello up here. There we go. So we basically need to be able to set that to the score. So if we do that in the update down here, we say score text.text is equal to score.toString. But now what's going to happen is, since this is a float value, it's actually going to keep, oh, well, not right now because we don't have any more, we don't have a value with a decimal number, but say our score is 2.85, then it would actually write the 0.85, and that's definitely not something we'd like to see. So we could fix that by simply turning this into a int at the runtime. The way we do this is we go in front of score, we type in int like this, and we just wrap the whole value inside of that. So this way, score is going to be cast into a int, and then it's going to truncate the values after the dot. And then we can say toString, and it's going to give us a clean number. Okay, so this is pretty much it for the score text. Now we're going to make sure that it actually increments, that it actually does something. And how exactly are we going to do this? So I was thinking about something fairly simple. In the update, score is plus equal to time.delta time, like this. So every second we would get a point. Let's try this out. And as you can tell, we get a point every second, but this one is fairly too simple, so I'd also like to add some kind of difficulty level to my game. So what I'll be doing is actually creating some new fields up here for difficulty of the game. I will start with a private int difficulty level is equal to 1. We're gonna start at 1, and then private int max difficulty level is say equal to 10, and then private int score to next level is also equal to 10 for now. Okay, and what we're gonna do now is we are going to say in our update, if score is bigger or equal to score to next level, then let's go ahead and level up, which is a function we haven't made just yet. So we're gonna go down here, say void level up, and every time we go past that value, past the score to next level value, we are going to call level up. Now the only thing we need to make sure, since this is in a update, we need to make sure that we don't call this 2 frames in a row, and the way we do this is by changing score to next level. So I was thinking about something really weird and simple at the same time. We are going to say score to next level is times equal to 2. So right now on level 1, in order to move on to the next difficulty level, you have to hit 10, because score to next level is equal to 10. And then after that, it's going to multiply that by 2, so 20. Once you hit 20, you're actually on difficulty level number 3. And then it's going to go from there, so 20 times 2 is 40. 40 means you're on the 4th level of difficulty, and then 80, which is 5th, and 160, which is, you know, it just keeps going like that. It increments until it hits 10, and 10 is the maximum level. So let's just make a condition up here. If difficulty level is equal to max difficulty level, so that's 10, let's just return, because at that point the game is going to be hard enough, and you know, we don't need to increment it. Okay, so back to our level up. Now we know that this is only going to be called a few times, but what actually happens when we level up? First, we leveled up the difficulty level, so of course difficulty level plus plus, which means if it was on 1, it's now on 2. It just does a plus equal 1. And then what we could do is actually set the speed of the player so he goes faster, something of the sort. But we don't really have access to that value, right? Because the value is inside of a player motor. So what I'm going to do is quickly, I am going to go back in my player motor, and I'm going to declare at the very end of my script. So this is my update. After that, I'm going to declare a public, make sure this one is public, void set speed, and let's take in a int value of say int modifier. Why not? Okay, so I want to be able to call this set speed function from inside of score, and I will give him a modifier to the speed. So I'll say speed is equal to my base speed, which is in this case 5, so I'll just type in 5 plus modifier like this. And is this going to work? Let's actually make sure this is a float, because speed is a float. So let me just type in the .0f like this. And right now, by doing that, we should modify the speed value by 5 plus whatever we send in here. But of course, we haven't called this function just yet. We need to be able to take this and put it right there and call it by, say, you're going to increment this by difficulty level. But we don't have this function. Ourselves right now, this is score.cs. We need to call playermotor.cs. What information do we have on these two? As you can tell, score is here, player motor is there. So we have the option to simply do a get component. Since we're on the same object, we can say get component player motor. And that's exactly what we are going to do. So get component player motor dot set speed. And that is all we had to do to make this work. So let's just make sure everything makes sense really quickly. And it looks great to me right now, so I would just remove the start because we don't need it. And let's actually hit play on this. So when I hit 10, I should see my speed incrementing. Now, of course, I haven't made any condition to actually tell me that it happens. Maybe a nice feedback would be great, but right now I don't have any. So at 20, I should then go faster again. And it's really subtle. I don't know if you guys saw it. Probably not. So let's just go ahead and put a debug.log just for now, so we actually see when the level up is happening. So at the very end, I'll just say boom debug.log and debug the difficulty level, and then we are going to hit play. And on 10, I should see, okay, we're on difficulty level number 2. On 20, we're on difficulty level number 3. So here it comes, 10, 2. And we also saw the slight increment in speed, if you're looking really closely, and then 3. And then it should not be called on 30, it should be called on 40, because we're doing the current score to next level times 2. So 30, nothing happens until we finally hit 40 right about now. Alright, there we go. So one other thing that would be great to do is actually make the speed go up a little, not the speed, the score go up a little bit faster depending on your difficulty. So let's do score plus equal times the delta time times difficulty level. So it's going to be fairly normal on level 1, and then on level 2 it's actually going to go twice as fast, and so on. So we can have a fast beginning, and that's okay with me. I like that design. So 10, and then it should only take 5 seconds to hit 20, and then keeps on going faster and faster. So 40, and the next one should be 80, and then so on. So I won't be testing this all night long, but guys, that's going to be pretty much it for this episode. If you learned something or if you enjoyed this, please leave me a like. I really appreciate that. If you have any comment or question, you can also leave them on the comment section below. And that's going to be pretty much it for this episode. So thanks a lot for watching again, and I will be seeing you guys in the next one.